Oh, well, hello there. Welcome to Cultures and Global Systems. My name is Joseph Garrett, and I will be your instructor. First of all, I want to welcome you all to this course and to the semester. I'm hoping it'll be fun and interesting for all of us. First of all, I want to get a couple things out of the way. I want to apologize for if any confusion or any issues that you might be experiencing right now. There's a couple of things that are going on. One, there's like a freaking freezing ice storm type thing going on since classes were canceled earlier, which is a major bummer. I hope all of you are home safe and warm and stay off the streets tonight. Second, I'm a brand new faculty member at CSU. I've been teaching for a number of years now, but because of when I was hired, I literally just got my email and access to Canvas yesterday. Because of this, I'm a little late to the game to get everything set up for this course, getting Canvas organized, and because we're also going to go online because of the COVID spike, which is hitting right now, and it's like, oh wait, we got all this stuff to do, and then there's, Teams, and I've used Teams before, and at other colleges, and for some reason, it just wasn't working. I called IT, I called everybody, and so far, it's still not working. So hopefully, by next Monday, this should be figured out. If we are going to hold, we'll find out whether or not we're going to have in-person class on Monday or if we're going to continue to be online for another day or so. I will let you know over the weekend via email and Canvas. So hopefully a lot of that stuff is going to be figured out. There won't be any more confusion, and I apologize if there was any confusion. Okay, I think we'll sort of move on to the syllabus. Then I'm going to sort of introduce myself and the course, and we'll move on from there. Okay, so the syllabus. Okay, we've got right up here where we're going to be meeting Clark A203 Mondays and our time. This is how you can contact me. Here's my email address. I have office hours in Clark B214 Mondays and Wednesdays between 1 and 3 p.m. So pretty much just before our classes. I'm going to have our TA for the course introduce themselves when we are actually able to talk, and they can be here to introduce themselves. So let's go on to the course description. This course will explore how anthropologists study the global arena and human behavior. We will explore how culture, media, religion, production, politics, and other anthropological lenses impact the global environment, and how people in various communities around the world are influenced, disrupted, and displaced by global practices. Essentially, we're going to see how globalism is impacting the world in lots and lots of different ways. And we're going to take a look at a lot of different communities, political systems, companies, stuff like that that have had major impacts. We're also going to be looking at other influences that you wouldn't normally think would have a huge impact on globalization and economics and labor and products, but we're going to explore it all. So hopefully we'll have a good chance to get a wide variety of these ideas and how they all impact each other in lots of different ways, but how so many of them connect. Okay. Our objectives for this course: describe the global system and the process of globalization. We're going to discuss the process of globalization experienced by various communities through the lens of economic, political, religious, social, and environmental practices, and a few others as well. We're going to critically examine cultural practices discussed in this class and in the readings. This means that we're really going to be going to try and take a critical view of how countries, how companies are impacting our world. And we're going to look at how it's done well and how it's been done poorly. And oftentimes you're going to find both in a lot of different sense when we're going to be looking at these cultures. And then you're going to accurately describe, deconstruct, and discuss topics talked about in the class and explore our own personal experience and biases related to those subjects. Basically, we're going to take outside experience and our own experience and try and work them together, try to understand how they compete. Certainly as Americans, we have our own personal experience when it comes to culture and how our global needs are being impacted. And we're going to try and explore some of those ideas. Okay. For our readings, we've got 2 books that we're going to be using. I have this one, 23 Things They Don't Tell You About Capitalism. It's a great book. I enjoy it quite a bit. There's a lot of great insight into this. This is not going to be our main text. Our main text is this. Essentials of Cultural Anthropology, a Toolkit for a Global Age, 2nd edition. There is a 3rd edition. Do not get it. Get the 2nd edition. The reason why we do the 2nd edition is because it's cheaper. Because I was once a college student as well, and I know textbooks are outrageously expensive. So if you can find it used, find it on Amazon, pick it up as soon as you can. It should be relatively easy to get a hold of. There's quite a few of them out there. So yeah, pick it up, 2nd edition. Not the 3rd edition, 2nd edition. There's not a whole lot of difference between the 2nd and 3rd edition as it is. And that's actually something we can talk about, is the textbook industry. There will be multiple movies in classes. I should normally have links to them in Canvas. Some of this content will be included in the exams. Also, with the texts, I will bring content in from the text into Classroom, but not always. Essentially, what I want you to do is keep up with reading the chapters as we go through each module within the course. And that's the same with the movies. I don't put dates on when we're going to be covering a specific subject because I'm not sure when that's going to happen. We might have subjects that go for a week, or we might have them go for 2 weeks. So I keep a little bit of space open. As far as assignments and grades, first of all, when it comes to assignments, right here, basically, don't cheat. I don't ask for much. It's going to be hard to cheat in this class anyway. I say that because I think it's true. But honestly, do your best. That's all I'm going to ask of you. I will work with everybody if there is any problems, any issues, whatever. But don't cheat. I have a 0 tolerance on that. And I say 0. So yeah, honor code. Make sure you follow it. Do your best to work with everyone in the course. This is a place where this is a venue where we can all have critical discussions. We might not always agree with what is being said. That doesn't mean that we have to yell and shout over it. It means that we have to be able to have basically civil discussion. Okay, and that's where that classroom is going to be that venue for civil discussion. So, and we will talk about controversial things without a doubt. We just all have to respect each other when we're having those conversations. So what you're going to have to do, as far as this course is concerned, you're going to have a global impact paper. This paper is based on a subject that you choose to be interesting, that is going to be based on anything you're kind of interested in. Okay, and that's kind of broad, but it has to have some sort of a global impact. Maybe it's a company, maybe it's gaming, maybe it's immigration, maybe it is food production. There's all kinds of stuff that we can talk about, and maybe there's something that you have a particular interest in. So what you will do is you will submit that subject to me, and I will approve that subject for you to discuss. We will talk about this within the first few weeks of the semester, and kind of go over the outline for what I am expecting of you for this paper. It shouldn't be hard. It should be relatively interesting. You're also going to have to do a little bit of field research, and you're going to have to do some interviews of people that are within that realm. Whatever it is that you're studying, you're going to have to interview some people to include in that paper. Exams, there will be a midterm exam and a final exam. So 2 exams throughout the course. The exams will be online. So there won't be any in-class exams or anything like that. They'll both be online. They will be short answer and short essay format. So no yes or no, no multiple choice, none of that. You will have to clearly write out your answer. There's usually about 8 questions per exam, and you're going to have, instead of having the allotted time in class, I usually extend the time to about 2 to 3 hours, depending. So you'll have plenty of time to complete the exam. And then I also give you usually between 3 and 5 days to take that exam, so that it gives you plenty of time to find the best time for yourself to take it. Basically, I'm setting you up to succeed in these exams. I want you to take your time. I want you to do the research, and you can get an A in these exams if you put in the work. There will be weekly exercises. Basically, these are 1-page reflection papers. Every week you will have a homework assignment, and that homework assignment is whatever we are discussing that week in the course. I want you to critically think about that. I want you to incorporate your own ideas, your own experience with that subject, and then write about it. I do not want you to repeat to me what we talked about in course. Right? If we talked about this subject, I don't want you to parrot it back to me. I already know what we discussed because I discussed it. I want your thoughts. I want your ideas, your reactions in this. I want you to critically think about what we are discussing in the class. There will be an extra credit paper. This paper will be discussed at the end of the semester, and it's worth 50 points. It should be relatively interesting, hopefully fun for you to do. I don't know if anyone has ever said that extra credit papers could be fun. I'm going to say that. Hopefully it'll be true. Grading. So as far as grading is concerned, there will be weekly assignments, as I just said. There should be 15 homework assignments, I believe. That's worth 150 points. You'll have your global impact paper. That'll be 50 points. Your midterm exam and your final exam will both be 100 points each. And then you will have an extra credit paper as well. This is the grading scale. I do everything in points. I do not do anything in percentages. Okay, I don't grade by percentage. I grade by point. Everything you do will be counted in Canvas. So yeah, that's just how we do it. So 360 to 400 is an A, 320 to 359 is a B, 280 to 319 C, so on and so forth, right? It's all spelled out right there. If you have any questions about it later on in the semester, I will reference you back to here. Okay, so the modules, the things that we're going to be discussing. We're going to first sort of take the time to build a foundation upon which we're going to be discussing global topics. So the first few modulars that we're going to be talking about is an introduction to cultural anthropology. We're going to talk about what is culture, and we're going to be talking about field work and your class project. The field work is important because you're going to be incorporating some of that into your project. It's also important to understand how social scientists such as anthropologists actually go out and gather this information to go out and find out all this stuff and bring it back and then incorporate it into some sort of analysis. Okay. Again, homework assignments over here are every week. As well as the exams will be done after we get through our sixth module. Okay. We'll be talking about globalization of language. We'll talk about art and media, religion. All of these things will be incorporated in the first half of the semester. We'll be discussing, we've got one movie set up, and we'll have other movies as well as we sort of incorporate some of this stuff. One of the things I need to mention to you guys as well, this is the first time I've ever taught this course. I'm building this course a little bit as we go. Things are going to be open to change. The syllabus will definitely change at some point as I add in maybe different movies, or I might move something around, whatever we find that works best. So that should work out pretty well. This is going to be a fun course. I think we're going to have a lot of interesting opportunities to explore different ideas and different concepts, especially through the anthropological lens. So we'll have our midterm after we discuss religion. We'll talk about project guidelines and discussions and how to do some research projects, stuff like that. Then we get into these other subjects: politics and power, production and consumption, immigration, migration, the global movement of people, environmental globalism and exploitation, global health, and gender and sexuality. So we'll cover these 12 subjects throughout the course of the semester. Sometimes we'll get through them really quickly. Sometimes we might need a couple of weeks to cover them. So it should be relatively easy to go through this. Additional information. I'm going to try and make this as available to everyone as I possibly can. I want to include all different kinds of perspectives, backgrounds, different agencies, what people's experiences are, young, old, it doesn't matter. I want everybody's to be included in this course. I think that having the most diverse possible background and knowledge base is going to help us all. And it doesn't always mean that you or I will agree with what is being said. That's inevitably going to happen. Again, as I mentioned earlier, what's more important is that we deal with this in a civil manner, right? We might not agree, but that's not yell about it. Let's have a discussion, and if we need to table that discussion, then we table it. I want to make sure that everyone has opportunity, depending on their circumstances, to have access to the resources. So I'm going to do my best to do this. So yeah, if you have ideas, if you have concerns, if you have comments, please let me know and I will try and use those to the best of my abilities. Veterans and active duty members, if there's something that comes up, let me know. I'm more than happy to work with you in any way possible. If you need accommodations in general as a student, make sure you get those accommodations to me. My classes are usually pretty good about making those resources available. So, Bear, what are you doing? Just chill, man. That's Bear. That's my buddy, and I'm sure you will see pictures of him. He's quite possibly the best dog ever, and that might be a biased opinion, but it's mine, and I'm gonna keep it. Let's see what else. COVID. And when it comes to like masks and stuff, I have a zero tolerance policy when it comes to this kind of stuff. Wear your mask, wear it properly, and there will be no problems. That's it. It has nothing to do with me or what my opinion is. This is the stance of the university. They're the ones that are paying me and accepting you into these courses, so we need to follow their guidelines. That's it. So make sure that you are following the guidelines. If you feel like you're getting sick, don't come to class. Don't do it. I don't want to see you. I am more than willing to give extensions on time and work with you on missing classes if you get sick. What I do not want is for you to spread it to your classmates or to me. So if you're feeling sick or you think you've been exposed, be forward thinking. Don't come in. Email me as soon as possible. There won't be any issues on my end. I just want everyone to be healthy and happy. Okay? Let's see. Anything else? That's about it. Okay, so let us switch over here. Okay, so we're going to go into our first sort of lecture here. And this is also sort of an introduction for me as well. So I'll give you a little bit about my background, some of the work that I've done. Okay. So, cultures and global systems. So me, here I am, Joseph Garrett. I have a master's of visual anthropology from the University of Southern California. Basically, my degree is ethnographic research and cinematography, so doing documentary filmmaking. And as kind of a side note, that is one of the things that I am looking to develop over the next year is some visual anthropology courses. And that's one of the reasons why I was brought into CSU, is to bring that experience. I received my bachelor's in anthropology from the Metropolitan State University of Denver. So Metro State, great school, a lot of fun. Here's my email if you ever need it. It's also on the syllabus. My experience. So I am currently the past president of the High Plains Society for Applied Anthropology. We are a 40-year-old society that deals with applied anthropology, which you will learn more about. It's kind of a sub-field of cultural anthropology. It's a great community, and I will be talking more about this community later on in the semester. I'm also on the board of directors for the Colorado Archaeological Society, the Denver branch. I've also done a lot of work on the Ute Mountain Reservation in southwestern Colorado. I spent 8 seasons down there, 8 summers, working with the Ute Mountain tribe. I also did an internship program in Kenya. And then I've got a number of films that are published. Beyond the Wall, which is a documentary on graffiti writers in Denver and Los Angeles. Rest in Paint, Proving Our Existence, and barriers to care, the cost of irritable bowel disorder, or something like that. Anyway, so that's some of my experience. I've been in anthropology for 26 years, something like that. I started in 1994. Oh God, it's like 28 years. Holy mackerel. I started in 1994 as an archaeological technician for the Bureau of Land Management. And this is when I was in high school. I got into college, was interested in archaeology, cultural anthropology. Then I went to the University of Southern California for my master's degree. I've done 20 plus field programs, ranging from geology, geography, archaeology, cultural anthropology, applied anthropology, a ton of different stuff. I primarily have made my my mark in field schools. So I've spent literally a couple of years living in tents in different parts of the country, but primarily in Southwest Colorado. I love anthropology. I think it's fantastic. I think everybody needs to have a good understanding of what cultural anthropology is and how it can have a positive impact on your life. It helps you understand people and why people do the things that they do. So yeah, I've got some experience. I want to give a quick disclaimer for this course, and I kind of touched on this earlier. Like I said, we're going to be talking about a lot of different things. We're going to be talking about all kinds of issues that not everybody is going to agree upon, and that's okay. We just need to do it in a civil manner. We have to have civil discourse, which is something that, honestly, I think as a society, we're kind of lacking a little bit right now, especially in the political realm, right? So anytime that we're going to be discussing these various issues, if you want to make a comment, if you want to disagree with something, that's fine. I'm totally fine with that, as long as it doesn't become a disruption. Okay, it needs to be civil, and there might be times when you disagree or I disagree with something that's being said, and we will be civil about it, and we will move on to the next subject. However, in this class, the content that you're going to be graded on will be the content that that is going to be in the lectures and in the readings, and that stuff isn't negotiable. So you need to make sure that even if you disagree with it, you need to understand the content that we're going to be discussing. Okay, so make sure that if you do disagree with something, even on some very fundamental levels, that if you want to talk about it, you do it in a civil manner. Okay? Pretty easy, right? It should be pretty easy. So some of you are probably anthropology majors or already have a basic idea of what anthropology is, but I'm going to give you kind of like a real quick rundown of what anthropology is, what it does, what we look for. So if some of you have already taken some anthro courses, I apologize. This is going to be a little bit of a refresher. And the next couple of weeks, we're going to be talking about some anthro stuff as well. So some of you that aren't anthropology majors and aren't used to this kind of stuff, you'll get a good understanding of some of the basics. So what is anthropology, you ask? Well, it's the study of human beings, of everything that humans do, and whatever they touch, and it's everything. It's a holistic field of study. We study human culture, language, biology, evolution. We study humans both past and present, and to an extent the future. To understand anthropology, you have to understand the scientific method. Okay. So what is science, you ask? It's funny. I actually get people that don't really have a great understanding of what science is. So we'll talk briefly about it. So science is the intellectual and practical activity encompassing the systematic study of a structure and behavior of the physical and natural world through observation and experiment. That's it. That's you see something, you're interested in it, you watch it, you test on it, and you figure out, what is it? What does this mean? What does this do? It's pretty simple. There's no ego involved. There's no personal ideology behind it. It's a process. That's all that science is. And anthropologists are scientists. We just study people. Like a biologist would study a fish, or a microorganism, or a physicist would study gravity, or the atomic explosion of an A-bomb or something like that. Right? We are studying people, and we use this similar process to understand them. It's a rigorous process. Okay, and when I say rigorous, I mean rigorous. It's not somebody saying, well, I'm going to do my own research on it, and then they read an article or they watch a documentary film and they've done their research. That's not science. Okay, science takes time. It takes a lot of effort. It takes continual process of information, of taking in new stuff and rejecting stuff that doesn't work, right? So it's not something that you can just say, oh yeah, I'm going to do my own research and spend half an hour reading an article. That doesn't count. So what is science? What is the process? You have a question, right? You observe something in the world and wonder, how did that come about, right? So here we go. You are basically going to start your research. You're going to find this question. You're like, so what can I find out about this? So you look for other types of information. Has somebody already done the research on this? Have they written a book? Are there journal articles? Find everything that you can that might have information about this subject, right? So you're going to do your research. And once you've done all this research and you've got a really good idea about what it is that you're looking for, the answer to your question, you're going to create a hypothesis. Okay. Now, here's the thing. A lot of people mistakenly use hypothesis and theory. Okay. You might be talking to someone that's like, I've got a theory about that. No, you don't. You don't have a theory about that. You have a hypothesis. You might have made some observations about something, but you're kind of guessing. Right, and that's closer to a hypothesis. A theory is a fact, right? If somebody says like, I've got a theory about this, they're like, oh no, I have facts. I have facts about this, right? So we'll talk about this as we go. So you create a hypothesis. After a lot of research, you now have a better understanding as to why this thing has happened, right? Now you have to go through the rigorous process of testing that hypothesis, right? You're going to continue to do more research. You're going to continue to test, and you're going to test it again and again. You're going to find more information that is going to either confirm or deny your ideas, right? So then you're going to have to do a peer review. You're going to have to find other people that have done similar research, and they're going to have to review your work, and they're going to say like, oh, okay, yeah, no, I see what you did here, and I see what you did here. I don't know if I agree with this, but I do agree with this, and then once all that's done and they've kind of said yes, they agree with your ideas, then you can finally say, I've got a theory, right? That theory is now a fact, right? It hasn't been dispelled, it hasn't been disproven, right? There's enough information and a lack of disinformation to say that this is a fact. This is the truth, right? So it's passed all of the rigors and the tests needed to be proven true. Okay. Well, this can be complicated because people, right? Science doesn't have an ego, but people do, right? People have egos, and as a scientist, you might work on this hypothesis for years or maybe even decades, right? You've spent all this time and effort trying to learn this thing, and someone else comes along and says, "Oh, you got this wrong, and this over here is true, right? This is a fact right here." And all of a sudden, you're like, "Oh, wait, they're challenging everything that I've ever done." And now, that's BS. No, that's not. That can't possibly be a fact, right? Here's the thing: science doesn't care. Science doesn't care about whether or not it's right or it's wrong. What it doesn't care about your feelings. Doesn't care about how much time you have put into it. It wants to know whether or not it works, right? And this is the other thing that you have to understand about science, is that if you prove something to be untrue, right? If you're working on your hypothesis and you come up to this and all of a sudden it doesn't work, right? This doesn't work for your hypothesis. This is finding out a falsehood. That is a success, not a failure. Okay? And the thing is that why it's a success and not a failure is you have just eliminated this falsehood, right? So now you have narrowed the scope a little bit more, and that is moving forward. So even if you get something wrong, that's not bad. Getting something wrong is not bad. It just means that you're moving closer to the truth, right? You're getting closer to that fact. So you need to make sure that, if you get something wrong, don't see it as a failure. See it as something that is moving you in the proper direction. So yeah, again, only people have egos. I was going to say igloos or egos. I suppose you could have egos and igloos. Be cold. Kind of cold right now. Anyway, sorry. So, like I said, people have a tendency to spend a lot of time on their work, and they want it to be true, and sometimes their egos get in the way. And this has happened many, many times. It is our job as scientists to do our best to recognize our bias and to make the according shift, right? To say, okay, this is better. I spent all my time looking at this. I didn't incorporate that. Maybe I should, right? Okay. Early anthropologists. Early anthropology sort of started with sort of like the early aspects of globalization. We see the beginning of anthropology. And this is because anthropologists, and they weren't necessarily anthropologists, but they were practicing sort of a early idea of what anthropology became, is because they could move around. A lot of times it came down to transportation, being able to go to different countries or to different continents. Being able to experience different cultures that are far, far away from your own gave us the chance to explore and try to understand a lot of these different cultures and ideologies and all this stuff. A lot of early ethnographic studies came from monks or missionaries. So you'd have a missionary going out to colonize or to convert a culture. Not exactly what we do now at all, but this is where it sort of got started. They would have to learn the language. They would have to learn the cultural practices of the people that they were working with. And oftentimes they would record that information and send that back to their home country and write all of that information down. So a lot of times the first folks that were able to do that were in a religious practice. It might have been the Catholic Church or the Lutheran Church or um, something like that, right? So, and it's also because churches and religious institutions were some of the first places where people were literate. Right? If we go back a few hundred years, literacy rates were extremely low. Right? The common person didn't know how to read or write. They didn't need to. Right? They don't have the same issues that we have today, where everybody has to read and everybody has to write. So they were some of the first learned people, right? They could write, they could record, and as transportation became cheaper, they could hop onto um, uh, sailing ships and travel, right? And go to different places. So that's how a lot of early anthropologists would get around, is through this early process of globalization. If we look at the four fields of anthropology, we have cultural, physical, or what is oftentimes referred to as biological anthropology. We have linguistics, and then we have archaeology. Cultural is what we're going to be primarily looking at as our main field of focus for this course, primarily because we're going to be dealing with how different cultures react to different situations. There will be some impacts on biology and evolution and ideas of race. And we're also going to be talking about linguistics, how immensely important language is to culture and to how people perceive the world. Language determines our reality, how we see things. So that's really important to understand as well. And then archaeological, we basically are looking at the material past, right? What did people leave behind for us to learn about them, right? What kind of structures did they leave? What kind of tools did they leave? What kind of textiles did they leave that we can better understand their community? Because a lot of times that's all that's left, is the things that they left behind. Some cultures, they disappeared, their language disappeared, there's no one left. So sometimes all that's left are the things, right? So we'll go into, let's see, how much time do we have? Oh, we still got plenty of time. Cultural anthropology, again, it's we look at the development of cultures, how cultures change, what their variation is, how they interact with different cultures, how those cultures develop or wane. We study how people interact with each other, both within their community and with others. We look at historical and contemporary cultures. So we'll take a look at how cultures behaved in the past, and what are they doing today? How have they changed from what they were 5 years, 10 years, 20, 100, 200, 500 years ago, right? How have things changed within those communities? We seek to compare and contrast cultures. What makes them similar? What makes them different? Why do they do these things? Is there a reason for it? Is it good? Is it bad? Right? How do we understand it better? And how do we help ourselves understand more about ourselves through understanding other folks, right? And why they do the things that they do. We use ethnographic research to compile this information, and it helps us to understand their culture and how it might change in the future. In a very real sense, anthropology can help us determine what's going to happen next, right? If we understand what's happening now, what has happened in the past, it might give us sort of an idea of what might happen in the future. Physical or biological anthropology, right? We're studying the human species, how we evolved, what are our common ancestors with other great apes, We're going to look at disease and mortality. We're going to be looking at medicine. We cover all aspects of human biology and also how we interact with other species as well, how they relate to human development. So we would include, understanding dogs, right? Dogs are very much specific to what we have done as a species, and other domesticated animals as well, horses and cows. I don't count cats as domesticated. If you've ever owned a cat, they're an entity unto themselves. So, I'm a dog person. You can probably hear my dog chewing on his treat right now. Bear he's a good boy, but he's making a lot of noise. Anyway, so then we've got linguistic anthropology, studying language, right? How it's been written, how it's spoken, how it's changed both historically and contemporarily, how language changes due to cultural imperatives, right? Even if we look at stuff like computer culture and how we have had to develop all these different words and understandings of how computers work, or medicine is the same way, or gaming, right? Gaming has its own subtext of language, so we can understand how how it looks, how it interacts with modern day culture. So it helps us to understand our environments, right? And then archaeology, basically looking at the material culture left by our ancestors. What did they leave behind? How did it get there? We can examine how things like the pyramids were built. All of these different things are incorporated into archaeology, and it helps us to better understand who was here before us. There's a lot of different subfields in anthropology. There's medical, there's forensic, applied, visual, cybernetic, there's underwater archaeology, and there are new fields being created all the time because we are finding more and more ways to explore humanity. And so there's all kinds of new and interesting things that are being developed within anthropology, and that's the great thing about it, is it's always expanding. We'll take a minute to look at a couple of these. We've got like medical anthropology, how people interact with not only medicine but disease, how disease can be transmitted. This is particularly important right now. And this is what a lot of epidemiologists are doing currently, is trying to understand not only the disease, but the culture in which that disease is transmitted. It also looks at institutions, comparing stuff like Western medicine to Eastern medicine. It looks at language barriers. This is also really important when looking at hospitals and doctors. Doctors have a whole language built around themselves. And sometimes when they're speaking to their patients, especially if those patients are from a different culture, right, there can be a language gap. So how do we deal with that language gap? And so, it's all about health. It's all about healing, trying to find out how it's done in different cultures and our own. Then you've got forensic anthropology. If you guys have ever watched the show Bones, that's not how forensic anthropology works, although it's really cool. Nobody has those toys, those tools to create 3D. Well, that's sort of becoming true now. But really, it's all about understanding people and how they died and why they died. The forensic anthropologist might be called out to a burial that's 400 years old. And that forensic anthropologist will be able to say, oh, I see this, I can tell how old they were, I can tell what their sex was, I can tell what if they had any diseases, if they were healthy. I can tell all these different things excuse me, based on their bones, right? Really super cool stuff. They also do a lot of work with law enforcement currently. If they find a body or there's something going on there, it's pretty cool stuff. Applied anthropology, this is a realm that I've worked a lot in. Basically, you'll go into a community that has a problem, right? There's something going on in that community, and your job is to help figure out what's going on, why it's going on, and what a solution might be that is going to be culturally important to them and sustainable, right? So it has to be something that they can do themselves. Excuse me. Whew. Boy, I've been rambling on for 50 minutes straight here. So applied anthropology is a really great subject, and deals primarily with contemporary cultures. Then you've got visual anthropology. This is what I got my degree in. We really talk about ethnographic theory, cinematography, creating documentaries, or creating content that is shareable. And it's a different way of disseminating information. We really want to use multimedia to get out there and goodness sakes, to get out there and share that information, right? And I think I mentioned this before. I'm going to be developing some visual anthro courses, so you might keep your eye out for them if you're interested. Then we've got Cybernetic Anthropology. If you know this dude, that's Captain Picard as one of the Borg, cyborg. Yeah. Anyway, I'm a huge nerd when it comes to like Star Trek, Star Wars. You'll find lots of content. There'll be multiple discussions. Anyway, basically it's about how humans interact with technology, right? Whether it's our trusty cell phone. Have you ever left a house without your phone and you're like driving away and all of a sudden you get this weird sensation, this feeling that you're missing something, and all of a sudden you're like, oh my god, I left my phone at home, how am I going to survive, right? Well, that actually is a real thing, right? It's how people connect to technology, how they interact with it, how they bond to it, not only on a cultural level, on a biological level, whether it's something that we incorporate into ourselves, like a pacemaker, or as an amputee and getting a new arm, or how we just deal with technology on a regular basis, and what kind of an impact it has on us. So cybernetic anthropology is super fun to look at, and pretty interesting. Then we get into holism, right? Holism, or the holistic approach, is how we combine all of these things into one full picture of what is anthropology, right? What is the human experience, right? We put this all together and say, okay, we're gonna add in the realms of cybernetic anthropology, and we're gonna take in language, and we're gonna take in race, and we're gonna take sexuality and gender, and we're gonna take all of this stuff and we're gonna put it into one coherent idea, right? And that's the holistic approach. We're trying to combine all of this to give us the best picture of that culture, of who they are, of what they are, and hopefully we'll have a great chance to acknowledge that culture, right? Whether it's ours, whether it's somebody else. So yeah, that's kind of the holistic approach, and it's about being interconnected. You know, all of these things, we can't look at them separately, because they're never ever separate, right? If we look at race and if we look at gender, yeah, they're two different things, but they are very closely related, right? How people are treated differently based on either of those things can be combined to create even a more dynamic picture, a more dynamic understanding. So what we try and do is take all of these things and incorporate them into a more dynamic idea of that culture. And when it comes to how this is incorporated into the global realm, it just means that it becomes even more dynamic than ever. And it's fascinating. It's absolutely fascinating. We're going to have a great time looking at all of this stuff. So, in short, anthropology is the study of the human species, right? It's past, present, and future. It covers everything from the material culture of the past, whether it's stone tools, all the way to our cybernetic future. It shows us how culture develops and changes and adapts, how it is impacted by new stimuli or a lack of stimuli, and it also helps us to understand our neighbors, right, and ourselves. And I think that's the really important thing about anthropology, is it helps us to understand ourselves, so that when we're confronted with other cultures, when we're confronted with something that we don't agree with, or somebody that comes from another culture and they do something different and we don't understand why, instead of immediately disagreeing or immediately being insulted, or maybe we'll take a second and ask the question, why? Why are they doing that? Why do I feel like this? And I think that's really important for us to understand, not only as anthropologists, but as people in general. If we can help to understand who we are, it'll help us to understand who the other is. Who is that person that I see walking down the street? Or if I go to another country, I can understand their community and their culture. Or if I talk to someone who has immigrated here and I want to know more about them, we can create those kinds of relationships, that ability to better understand who we are and why we do the things that we do and why they do the things that they do. And there's a huge importance to that. And it's not just for science and science sake, right? If you're, if you're going into business, right, you want to open a company, or you want to understand marketing. Well, if you can understand your target audience, right, who are you trying to sell this to? Who are you trying to buy this for? If you can understand them better, you'll have a better chance of creating that relationship and creating that working relationship, right? You'll be able to sell it to them better, right? If you're a nurse or a doctor, right, understanding somebody else's culture and why they might approach medicine differently than what you were taught, well, maybe you might be able to help them and become a better nurse or a better doctor, right? These are things that, if we understand culture and if we understand that process, it helps us to create a more dynamic, a more inclusive approach to dealing with other people. And it'll also help us to understand, again, different cultures around the world, why they do the things that they do, right? So that being said, this is the end of this first initial lecture. I will post this onto Canvas so that you can get a chance to take a look at it. Hopefully you're home warm and not out on the roads, because they are just terrible. Yeah, okay. I think that's about it. If you've got any questions or concerns, my door is always open, unless I'm not there, and then you'd have to wait. Hopefully not too long, or just email me. Like I said, I'm always available to talk. If you've got a problem, if you've got an issue, if you've got a concern or a subject that you want to discuss, or you're just like, hey, dude, what's up? I want to chill. what's cool about, anthropology. I am more than down to talk about it. Anyway, now that that's done and over with, I hope to see you all on Monday, either in person or via Teams or whatever else we figure out what's going to happen. I'm really looking forward to this semester. I think this is going to be fun. Again, like I said, this is my first time teaching this course, so bear with me a little bit. I'm going to make this as interesting, as fun as possible. Hopefully you won't grow tired of my lecturing. I try and interject a lot of stuff with discussion, so we'll see how this all pans out. It should be fun. I think it will be. Okay, that's it. I will see you all next week, and I hope you have a great weekend. All right, take it easy.